Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet hits. So download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started and bet with FanDuel, official partner of the NBA. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan, back for a Locked On Texas Tech special edition, wrapping up the week with the Matador Mob Mailbag, and a whole lot to get to, so we waste no time. We will get to various topics, including Ben Winchell. Henschel. Will also get to an outlook on what is still to come as it relates to what is now essentially family getting a little tighter. Red Raider Club, Matador Club, university involvement, NIL space, the future. What does it mean? Chris, I'm sure you've got all these answers, so I can't wait to hear them. We'll get to that coming up in just a moment. Also, another entry into the Ring of Honor that's been long awaited. We'll talk Graham Harrell in just a moment as well. But I wanted to kick it off, Chris, with a question that I thought was really interesting and something that we're seeing kind of remain fluid across the nation as to how this is working out. And it goes back to a conversation we had on a previous episode this week relating to the personnel management office, whether it's a football program or a basketball program. There's talk now of general managers obviously being in place. We've heard that here locally, as we've felt like Texas Tech on the football front specifically is at the forefront of that type of effort. And now we're seeing that happening elsewhere, but the hierarchy hasn't always lined up exactly the same everywhere. So we had this question actually from Rob to kick it off, saying discussions regarding general managers and thoughts appreciated on schools like Stanford, where the president would hire the general manager and the coach reports to the general manager, versus what we and most others have structured. Chris, could you ever see a future where you had here locally a coach reporting to a general manager? An outlier right now, but it could be something that maybe is more common in the future. What do you think?
I don't know if I envision that. No, I think that's a unique circumstance, and Cal essentially copied that model. Ron Rivera, the former Panthers and Commanders coach, and Cal alum. You know, if you listen to when Ron Rivera took over, I mean, he was very outspoken. He was very clear. I report directly to the chancellor. And the reason I bring all that up is because I think this past week, the athletic director resigned. So it's like you had skipped the chain of command and the way it used to work. I think those are unique circumstances. Everybody's experimenting. Okay, that's what all these are. There's no right or wrong way to do this. I think that if you're Cal and you're Stanford and you have very well-respected NFL alum types that are still wanting to be involved in sports and want a job and want to get their hands dirty a little bit, that would make some sense. I mean, like one of the top programs in the country at Georgia, they don't even have a general manager. Kirby Smart is like, yeah, that's what I do. Like, that's part of the coach. I mean, we just, all the stuff that these GMs are doing, like we just divvy it up and all those things. Obviously, Tech with what Joey did with James Blanchard, I mean, their roles are clearly defined. It's a personnel department. And it's not even necessarily like NFL wise, because an NFL general manager, those roles are all different. Like, are you strictly involved with like draft picks and free agent deals, or are you making marketing plan? I mean, like what all comes with it? So I think every NFL team is even a bit different depending on how their franchise is set up. I think what we're seeing is colleges are very similar, to each his own. I don't know what way works. I think the general manager position reporting to the head coach is the most common, which is kind of what you have here. And, you know, but I can't say that what Cal and Stanford are doing is going to be wrong. I think it's just outside the box a bit. But I think those are unique circumstances. I think it takes the right person. And it's just funny because it's like they just totally are going around the AD, and then the AD's like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. So he resigned. So anyway, this is just one of the many sidebars of college sports that very different and has changed dramatically in recent years.
Yeah, and I don't know how to predict what's going to work out better or necessarily how to feel about either situation. More inclined to think, well, obviously the general manager, so to speak, in the college game would be reporting to the head coach, but it's probably just because I'm conditioned to think that way compared to the way that you view professional football. Because in the college sense, whenever you have, these personnel offices showing up or a general manager and his team or her team showing up, I was kind of inclined to think initially, like, probably a lot of assistants out there and support staff down with this. I mean, this is something that you would think would kind of ease the load on their plate as far as the recruiting or identifying prospects angle. So, hey, that sounds great. And maybe there's some head coaches that feel the same way about it. But by the same token, Chris, professionally, as far as the NFL goes, I have more so, I guess, as a fan, subscribed to the the Parcells protocol. If I'm going to make the dinner, I want to buy the groceries. I want to buy the ingredients. So I don't know why I'm feeling differently about the two situations, but I guess historically I've more so been the guy that says, no, I think I'd like the head coach to be more involved in those decisions. Not everybody's built the same way. And some head coaches are probably better head coaches because they don't have to be involved as much in those decisions. So I don't know. Case by case.
Well, and I don't know who else is, like you touch on it. You make an unbelievable point there in that was very outside the box. I think that is very abnormal, even still, where assistant coaches really, I mean, they may have a say, but not the final say. And Blanche and his crew, they can make offers without talking to anybody else. Like they can, this is what we're doing. And I think it comes with a lot of pressure. It comes with some responsibility and a process. Like, okay, this is why we chose this player. And as long as the athletic director or the head coach or whatever trusts the actual process, then I think you just say, hey, turn you loose. It does speed things up. Texas Tech has regularly offered big time guys first. They've identified them before anybody else. But you're right. If I'm Clay McGuire, it's like, well, I mean, my rear end is on the line here. Like I would like to have a say. I mean, I totally understand that sentiment too. And I think that there just has to be some trust and a working understanding amongst the folks in charge. And if you're like, we'll just keep going with Clay McGuire. If you're Clay McGuire and you take this job a year ago and you know that this is the process here, if I'm him, I just say, hey, man, I totally get it. However, because of this, I would maybe like to have more security with my contract. I would like a 2 or 3 year deal, which is also a bit abnormal for assistant coaches, but there's got to be a rub there. All this stuff's expensive. That's just how it works. But yeah, I think you touch on a very valid point because I think that is still mostly unique in college athletics as far as assistant coaches really not. And again, Mac Leftwich got to go pick his quarterback.
Yeah,
I think so. So there's some examples to the contrary, and I think they can weigh in or they can break a tie. Hey, what do you think about this guy? It's not like totally. There's no animosity here, but it does improve a quality of life in that it takes a load off of that assistant coach's plate. Now they are the ones that still have to go out and recruit them and seal it up and build the relationship, but they're not having to identify and all those things like they used to.
Yeah, it's I'm sure it's not as black and white as maybe I want to think it could be. There's plenty of room in between or gray area to operate in, but I think the word that you mentioned that absolutely is of the utmost importance, trust has got to be a part of something like this, man. You've got to have a rock solid relationship with a guy that you're giving that much influence and that much power to. But we're seeing it happen more and more and more. All right, good question. Thank you for that question, Rob. Appreciate you. This question here, a subject that's touched on by several different mobsters this week, Chris. We had John, we had Brent, we had David, we had Ernie as well, asking for some clarification, if you could, regarding the Matador Club, the Red Raider Club, the university. Is this something, as we look at it in the future, that is combining under an umbrella that is kind of one? Are we seeing like something that represents folding into one another, or are these separate entities that kind of remain separate entities in the future? I know that's sort of a foggy landscape to take a look at when it comes to the future, but how would you kind of describe, I guess, what this actually is? First, today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all the money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it can be easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. You're going to love the all-in-one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money today. Use our code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com and our code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for half off your first year.
I don't know if anybody ultimately has the answer what this is going to look like. I think that the idea right now, it's a working idea. And there was a lot of messaging sent out by the Red Raider Club and Matador Club. Hey, new day and new era and all these things. Because there's everything from, man, the collectives are just going to go away, to like, man, they're going to come under the university umbrella, to, hey, man, we need to keep this thing going. It's got great branding. It's a beacon of hope to a lot of people, and not just at Texas Tech, but on other campuses too. Who do I donate to? I don't know if we ultimately know what this is going to look like in 2 months or 6 months or whatever, because there's a lot of legislation out there being proposed, and like, you can't cap this, you can't tell the collective what they can. I mean, so I think the working idea, though, right now, as we sit here and talk, is that it'll be under the university umbrella. It will be separate entities, but the same, if that makes sense. It's confusing. I totally get it. Like, if I'm a donor and I want to give money, like, I think you can probably say, this is where I want that money to go to. But right now, what most universities are going to say is, I'm not trying to use the word collective, but collectively, we are trying to all raise toward that $20.5 million. That's our primary focus. So it doesn't matter if you give to the Matador Club or the Red Raider Club or to the university. I just think it all kind of, until you get to that, I think there could be some outside stuff. So it's, again, working concepts, working ideas, some thoughts about what it's likely going to look like, but I just don't know if anybody can say for certain we're locked into this format, this is what it's going to be for going forward, and away we go. I don't buy that.
I think that's kind of what also Brandon was asking about when talking about the associations joining the university, and whether or not this is connected with like overall fundraising, or if it's sort of, I guess, directed towards the same target, which it sounds like that's what you're describing there. John's kind of angle on the question was regarding the Matador Club being subject to clearinghouse sweepstakes, and whether or not Cody may just start Matador Club 2, 3, or 4 to continue operations, I guess, usual on the outside, because there are some new regulations that come with this.
Yeah, and I don't think so. So we're clear here. Cody wants. I think Cody's in the camp of, these were the rules. We played by them. We tried to use them to the maximum capacity that we could, as we've seen. But he's going to be in the camp of, he wants this house settlement to work. He wants some uniformity. But if the rules change, or they get tweaked, I think that they will, again, whatever is allowed or whatever, they will try to capitalize on it and be very aggressive. Texas Tech is very fortunate in that you don't have to worry about you raising that $20.5 million. I think even somebody like, I don't want to speak for them, but like the Codys and the John Sellerses and the Gary Petersons and the Dusty Wombles and the folks that have been involved with a lot of this headlining portal movement, they would be willing to, I think, help out the department, in raising that money, donating to that cause, and to making sure. Now, above and beyond, that's where we get into the trickier parts, because I don't know if we have a full grasp on what this looks like. But I would say that Cody's stance is going to be, we want this to work. I think that he's probably in the pro house settlement, camp right now. But again, if there's gray area, or if there's extra that can be done or had or whatever, I think they'll look to play ball there too.
Nick is asking, did anything really change with NIL Go from the previous system? Could the transfer portal insanity be calmed? Maybe not by revenue sharing, but by multi-year contracts, or has anything actually changed at all? Because we know there's still NIL pursuits and efforts being made, and just talk of challenging, I guess, some enforcement or something like that if they were to run contrary to NIL Go guidelines.
Well, the salaries, theoretically, we'll see if what reality is, but in theory, salaries will be reined in dramatically. And there's been stories recently coming out about there's almost next to no movement with basketball players for the upcoming class as far as the top high school players, because you could have been making $2 million out there on the open market a year ago, or even this past April or whatever, and now it's like, hey man, we'll give you $150,000. Like what? And that's where some of this litigation and lawsuit stuff could come in. Like, this isn't fair. Like, the market was set, and now y'all are trying to. I mean, it's un-American, is what some are going to suggest. Okay, so there's that. I do think in general, I think the portal movement will slow down. It won't be the massive amounts, because you can lock up guys for multi-years. And then if you want to go buy somebody out of the contract at another school, that buyout figure counts against what you're allowed to spend. There's all different kind of salary cap gymnastics that you got to jump through. So I do think large in part. Where I don't think, though, that it will slow down is I think it will slow down a lot at the Power 4 level of players leaving those schools. Where it will not slow down, and it could ramp up dramatically, and this is where Texas Tech was playing ball before, mostly, is the Group of 5 level. Because most of those schools aren't necessarily going to be participating in the rev share model, the house settlement stuff. Or if so, far less than what the Power 4 schools would be operating at. So if I'm a big time kid at, because you've taken some from Northern Illinois, you've taken some from Charlotte. I mean, UTEP. I mean, if they're really good players there, I think they will look to jump if they're good enough and get paid to do it. And that's where you can really see a lot of movement and still, capitalize with what you're trying to get done. But in general, I think there'll be some slower portal numbers. Yeah. So I don't know. Did I answer everything that they asked?
I think so.
Okay.
Pretty close. You got our number, Nick. If he didn't, just holler back at us. That's the magic of the Matador Mob. Let's see here. Thank you for that question, Nick. This one from Kyle, also Dennis, asking about this. Any update to offer? Anything happening with Cody Campbell's involvement in the College Sports Commission? Is that still a thing, you think?
Stay tuned.
Okay. So it is still a thing.
Stay tuned.
Hasn't been buried just yet.
Yeah, no. I mean, and again, what it will ultimately be tasked with, what can happen there, I really don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure that out, and we all understand kind of how government works, and there's a lot going on in the world, and so I don't know. But as far as the answer to the question, just stay tuned.
All right, thank you for that question. This question from, let's see, we had Dina and Jamie also asking about insurance policies. Are these in place for front-loaded NIL payments in case of injury or other things? Dina saying, wouldn't it behoove the university to have a policy as a hedge like they do professionally? Is this something that's happening or commonplace?
No. I think if you're like a top pro prospect, then I think it's and you're going to come back to college. Like I could, I'm trying to think of like the last guy that would have I could have seen a reason for, like, say, a Tyree Wilson to maybe go secure an insurance policy when he decided to come back for that another year. And even he wasn't even guaranteed to be like a first rounder at the time that he would have been making these decisions. But we'll just use him as an example. And all that does is it protects the player. There's really not anything in place, because if a kid gets hurt, it's like, okay, I can get some money back. But, like, why would a player, is that the player going, okay, yeah, you can take some of my money if I get hurt? Like, well, I'm not going there. I mean, it seems a bit muddy, but there's really this is just it's a gamble you're taking. This is why a lot of people that want the house settlement to work, within the schools and administrative deals and the people that are fundraisers, because there's donor fatigue out there. And, like, this is a prime example. I'm like, man, I gave this much money and there's not really any return on investment, and he got hurt. We didn't even get anything for it. I mean, yeah. So I get that side of it too, but there's really not anything that protects the collective, or the donor. And you just have to know there's going to be injuries in football. We're trying to throw as many mashed potatoes at the wall that happen to be very talented and long and tall and fast mashed potatoes, and hope that most of them stay healthy, and we'll have a hell of a side with our fancy steak dinner at the end of it. I mean, that's just kind of how you're rolling with it. But yeah, no, I've asked those questions before. I'm like, so there's no, because Calvin, think about this. Like, some of these guys are about to get all their money right now. Like, they'll have it in the bank. They'll be good to go. It's like, are you protected if they cruise? What if they turn into a bad teammate? What if they're like, man, I got my cash? Like, I mean, I'm not going to go out here and play hard. I mean, you would hope no one would do that. And most of them have pro aspirations, so they don't want to shoot themselves in the foot as far as the next level. So they're not going to do that. But I mean, there's a variety of different theories that my stupid head was thinking of, like, all the bad things that could possibly happen here. But,
it's not a stupid head. It's a perfectly fine head, Chris. Cool. Yeah, you're just kind of freeing out there and loving every minute of it, I guess. What a country. Only in America.
Nothing but between me and you but a thin layer of gabardine.
That's right. Great work if you can get it. All right. Thank you for that question. This one from Justin. Switching gears here. Any thoughts on Graham Harrell being inducted into the Ring of Honor? It was a cool announcement and a video shared by Texas Tech this week for someone I know we anticipated to be there, Chris. Didn't know when necessarily, but exciting news to say the least.
Yeah, and I mean, I no doubt, and no brainer. I don't know. I wish it wouldn't have taken so long. I mean, there's different processes and protocols. You're trying to give people the shared or their own spotlight, and you're trying to spread this deal out. The best quarterback that's ever played here. Period. End of story. I think what Cliff did and BJ did. Cody Hodges had a phenomenal year. What Cumbie did. Seth Dagey, very underrated. Obviously, there's Mahomes. And all that he's done, but Graham Harrell was Billy Joe Tolliver, and we can go way back. But I think Graham's the best that's ever played the position here. Led the league in passing 3 straight seasons. I think I read this, that he's like in the top 5 of the 7 main passing categories in NCAA history. He's like a career 70%. Or 69.4 whatever % completion rate for his career. 100 and just shy of 135 touchdown passes. I mean, and call it, well, he's playing in this system. Yeah, there's a tons of people that played in systems. Take all the running back records away from all the people playing in the wishbone and the option and all that stuff, but that's not how it works. He was as good at what he did as anybody that's ever come through here. And I have always felt like he never got near the credit that he deserved for Michael Crabtree, being Michael Crabtree. There's a lot of good receivers out there in the country and at the time, but you got to be accurate, and you got to have a quarterback that can make those players look good and whatnot, because more often than not, that ball was thrown right to Michael Crabtree. And he didn't have to, go back and look at those highlights of old Crabtree. There's not a lot of like crazy one-handed over his head scooping balls up off the turf catches, right? We just remember what he did after the catch and all that. But the catch was mostly easy because of a guy like Graham Harrell. So kudos to him. Yeah.
They work very, very well together.
Yes, they did.
There were a lot of times. I mean, you remember the most famous catch, and
Oh,
there
yeah.
was somebody draped all over him. But the separation also that Crabtree could offer a lot of times, just at the line of scrimmage, made for a great target. The catch radius, I mean,
Yeah.
it could have been all over, but Harrell was putting it right there on the number anyway. So it was just a fantastic tandem to watch operate.
big man breaks free, Crabtree. Yeah. But it is back shoulder fade. That ball was thrown perfectly to where only his guy could get it. And I'm glad to see Graham get his spotlight. And I can't remember what game that is that's coming up this fall, but I think he's coming into a game when ACU's got a bye or something, because he's the offensive coordinator at Abilene Christian now. And
I can't remember the date, but isn't it the Oklahoma State game?
Maybe. Yeah, you can talk me into it. I'd believe it. Yeah.
And you got a lot of fancy statistics you were throwing out there. That's all great, but you cannot put a number on to measure the amount of hate in his heart for the Aggies. And that's something that will connect with everyone. We're putting this man in the Ring of Honor, and he once gave us the double birds in section 10 whatever after back-to-back pick sixes against Missouri. Look, all right, families squabble sometimes. We have disagreements. But at the end of the day, and what a great lesson for anybody who's enduring any adversity as, say, a backup or a young player or something along those lines. You can go from that, all of a sudden Chris Todd's on the field, to Ring of Honor at some point in the future.
From Elizabethtown, Kentucky, Chris Todd. Yeah, how about that? But that's what made Graham so good, is that he had some spice.
Yes,
BJ was very spicy. There's been some of these players that have come through here that have a serious competition component to what they are and who they are and all that, and then their skill to go with it. But Graham was so smart. He's one of those Rain Man type guys. He's one of the guys, if you walked up to him right now, like, hey, I guarantee you he could tell you what play was called and where the read was supposed to be on some of those interceptions versus Missouri. like today. I mean, that some of those guys just have the ability to, like, take a picture with their brain and recall it years and years later. That's what makes them special. But
I was on a second date at that bowl game against Missouri. I was with a gal that sports was not a part of her universe in any way, shape, or form. Just told her, hey, it'll be a great party, a lot of fun. Let's go to a game. We go to the game. We are in the section that is essentially receiving the greetings from the field from Graham after that tough stretch. It is not a fun environment. And I remember just kind of having to explain to her, like, it's a lot better than this. It's usually a lot better than this. Just hang tight.
And you,
from once upon a time.
And you dumped her.
Did not last. You would think some adversity would have helped solidify a foundation in that relationship. It did not. Left her in the dust.
Moved on. Bigger and better things, man.
I'm getting that over my skis now. Thank you for that question. How about this question here? Are we as fans, this is from Eric, and media putting too much pressure on the football program, or are the expectations realistic and fair? I think there have been off seasons where we felt, Chris, like the balloon has got a little too much in it. The hype is running a little bit wild, but I don't know if I feel that way. Actually, I mean, the roster in just about all ways suggests high expectations, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen anybody. If you're expecting CFP and, like, you're just going to be a miserable cuss if you don't get to the CFP, I think you're setting yourself up for failure. Personally, I think too, like in our line of conversation, I think if you're expecting to be in Arlington, I think that's very fair. I think this is what everybody internally would agree with you on and would say, we welcome that. There's a lot that's out of your control past that. Winning in Arlington is the one thing you can control. But, like, if you're leaving it up for at large and all that, but I think that, and we were talking about that in yesterday's show. There's 6 different teams that have been picked by different media outlets or formulas that have been picked to win this thing. I mean, so I don't want to hear that Texas Tech is some favorite. No, they're not. I like who is. I don't know, and I don't know who the media will pick, and that's really the one poll that people point to the most for preseason when we get to media days coming up in two or 3 weeks. And that's the one that not everybody even participates in. It's the one that everybody holds up and remembers back to and all that. But it's like you don't get a ballot. I don't get a ballot. I mean, if I sought one out, I would be able to get one from the Big 12 offices. But I think it's very fair to expect or to push or not demand, because really the only people that can make demands are the people that paid this money, that try to help the cause. And they are in lockstep with the head coach and the general manager and the athletic director and the school president and all that stuff. And it's about context. But I don't think anybody's being unfair that I've seen, because I haven't seen anybody like, you better win the Big 12 or else, or you better be in the CFP or else. And I just don't, I don't think that would necessarily be fair. I could see that you could entertain those conversations, but I think it's been mostly fair out there.
And we got into a little bit of that conversation on our most recent episode, so catch up on it if you missed it the first time around. All right, thank you for that question. Obligatory question here. Ben Winchell Henschel asking about anything to offer Chris with Mr. Henschel. And Curtis is also asking if Ben Henschel was going to Kansas or another blue blood program, would questions related to eligibility already be answered?
No, not necessarily. I think everybody, I mean, Florida, it was reported Florida was kind of had some of these issues. I haven't seen anything come out of Kansas, but it's just a thing. It doesn't mean that it will prohibit. It doesn't mean that it can be fixed or remedied either. I don't buy. Look, that's kind of a shot at Kansas, right? And I think well worth it. I mean, like Adidas and wiretaps and all this stuff, right? They deserve the shot there. If there's any way to make it happen, and this is what there's two motivated parties, you'll figure out a way, or you'll just be like, it's an impossibility. We can't get this done. I think Texas Tech is very good at making it work if they need to.
Okay, I like that. There's some. You're not shutting us down on anything.
Yeah, no. I mean, again, with online stuff, with I mean, people around here that run this thing or that have athletic motivations, they're not stupid. Like, why do we want to put up more roadblocks? I mean, hey, look, I have a degree from Texas Tech. You do too, Cowan. I'm not sitting here acting like we are the Harvard of West Texas. Okay. I mean, I'm proud of my degree. I worked hard for it. Was never the smartest guy. Kudos to me. Self high five for getting through 5 years of college, which is what it took me. And I think it's about the experience as much as it is the degree and the classes that you sit in. But let's not act like this is some pristine academic institution that their name can't be besmirched by a bunch of online classes or a bunch of majors. I mean, whatever, right? I'm speaking about over my skis, but you get what I'm saying. I mean, again, motivated parties, it takes two. There may need to be a lot of work that gets done in a timely fashion. And again, I can't even speak to exactly what the issue is. Is it, dude, you don't have enough, your grades are not good enough, you need more of them. I have no idea what the actual issue is, but again, two motivated parties, I bet they could figure out a way to make it happen if it's a possibility.
Yeah.
If it's an impossibility, then, and I don't think it would be, or we wouldn't still be talking about the kid, and nobody else would have been either.
True.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that question. This question from Casey: with the current state of the recruiting class, he says it's interesting. A lot of solid 3 stars. Absolutely no one who jumps off the page, though. Seems almost intentional given the number of recruits, he says. What's your take on the class so far?
Well, depending on when you're watching, listening, consuming this show, again, stay tuned. I think that this class is there's some things that have gone on that just aren't public yet. I think based on what kids' wishes on and deciding and when they will make announcements and all that. So I'll just leave it there. So at this point on paper, it's a TBD. Like I just think it's an incomplete right now. So it's hard to, but right now I don't disagree with but just let them finish up and then we'll see what it looks like. but there's a heavy emphasis on high school recruiting right now. And again, what I would love to know, and I don't, is how the rev share stuff is working with these high school prospects that can sign this December, because I believe they're entering into contractual agreements or being offered contractual agreements in Lubbock and in across the country at the Power 4 level. What do those numbers look like? How much is some schools willing to offer a freshman that hasn't done anything, and that's taking away from money that your older kids need to be getting, or else you're going to pay me this much. Well, I'm getting in the portal. Yeah, because we offered a kid that had never done anything here a bunch of money to get him here. I mean, there's only so many dollars and cents here. So,
all right, thank you for that question. This one from Luke, who's asking for us to pick a position group that we feel like could outperform expectation. But to hear that answer, you'll need to be a Matador Mob insider. So hit the show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial to do just that. For those on the outside, this is where we leave you. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you don't miss a thing, and become a Matador Mobster today for less than a cup of coffee a month so you can get the full Mailbag experience next week. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Chris, appreciate your time all week long. Enjoyed it. And we are on to the Mailbag OT.
Bang, bang. Talk to everybody soon. Hope you're sticking with us. We got a long way to go, but otherwise, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yes, sir. Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks to the everydayers for always being out there. For Chris, I'm Casey, and as always, we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.